So in this episode, you're going to hear from Dave Gatt, who has just finished Down Under 135, one of the most, if not the most, brutal ultra races you can do in Australia, where athletes run 135 miles, 217 kilometers, with an absolute ton of vert, and less than 7% of people actually finished it this year. So strap in, enjoy, and if this doesn't fire you up, I do not know what will. So second time doing the race, how did it compare to the first time?
To be honest, it felt a lot different just purely because the first, obviously last year's race actually set off from the turnaround point of this year's race, so it was in reverse. But we started at the original point at Mackenzie's this year, and the first 30k, I really realised that they'd put a bit more into the course this year, and I thought it was going to be, it was just I knew it was going to be a lot harder as soon as I saw the first 30k. There's a lot more elevation. It was a lot harder. And yeah, it took a lot of people. Actually, I saw a lot of people who I thought would be in front of me at that point in the race were actually, we're finding that bit a bit of a challenge. So it took me back a bit, to be honest.
So what, you realized in the first 30Ks, this was going to be different to last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty early time to realize you're in trouble.
Yeah, and I think it took a lot of people back. I mean, they added so Clifford's Hub is kind of the new part of the course that they put in for this year, and it was just a rough, a rough climb up to that point. I think, um it's yeah, you in your head you kind of go, and look, last year was obviously different, but last year the first 40k was like a very runnable marathon to begin with, and then you kind of get into the hard stuff. This was like as soon as as soon as the race began, it was like, yeah, we're on, and you knew it was going to be a tough course.
Did that concern you? Like, did you realize then, were you like, I'm going to be in trouble, or by that point were you still thinking like I've got this in the bag?
Um, I started to worry, if I'm honest. I felt good. I actually my crew. So I had a crew there, obviously, and my crew actually missed the first hub, so they weren't even there when I came through.
I actually
Um,
saw him. I saw him, mate. When we were there at the first checkpoint, we saw you come through, I think, and then, or we might have just missed you even. And we walked back 20 minutes later, and we saw them coming to the first checkpoint. We're like, you guys are well behind.
well, they came up to me and said, "You're going too fast." And I didn't think I was going too fast. I felt like I was going at what I would say was like I was comfortable. I definitely wasn't pushing. Um, for fear that I just burn out too fast. So missed them there, and then thank God they were there at Bear's Head when I came through there. And then I got the warning: you're going too fast. You need to slow it down. But I felt like I was okay.
In hindsight, do you feel like you went too fast?
No, no, absolutely. And in fact, I probably didn't. I probably wish I pushed a lot harder at the start. Uh, Through there and then through Old River. I kind of just kind of, like I took the whole, I would say the first 50k like really um uh, uh like I kind of said to myself, like, if if I take it slower and don't burn out, and as long as I get to halfway within 24 hours, um, I'll be in a good position to kind of get back and make it within time. The reality is that I reckon you needed to get to halfway a lot earlier than I did, and I just kind of like I got to halfway at just under 24 hours. I think wasn't enough time in hindsight for me, I think.
So did they time you out? Like, how did it, or did you pull the pin? What happened? What was the point where shit hit the fan?
Yeah, so shit hit the fan on a couple of different areas of the course. So like I felt completely fine. I felt completely fine heading out, signed the book at Lowe's on the way out, went through the first night, got to halfway, felt fine, um, turned around and, you know, I saw the front pack kind of pass me as I was going halfway, and they weren't too far. They were probably maybe like 45 minutes ahead of me.
Which is not really that much in a 24-hour race.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't
Well,
that
40,
much.
50-hour race.
Yeah, and there were some people in the race that I kind of said to myself, like, I was surprised I was in front of them at that point, but I kept pushing, and the beauty of this race is on the way back, you get to see everyone in their condition and how much they're suffering, right? So, um, yeah, to be honest, like I actually ended up pushing through the second night. It was really cold. Part of what went wrong in this race for me was on the way out, I got wet feet. My feet, like I fell into a puddle, and I refused to change my socks. As the race got on, my wife was saying, "You need to change your socks." I just didn't change them, and I ended up getting like trench foot.
Far
Um,
out.
and so my feet started blistering up, and they were kind of cut. And I got to, I got to Lowe's in a pretty bad condition on the way back.
And sorry,
Um,
how far is Lowe's?
Lowe's is I think it would be about 100 miles into the
Okay.
race.
So the
Yeah,
turnaround point's what, 110 Ks? Is that right?
yeah, it's 110 k's. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what, you got trench foot at 100 miles?
Yeah, no, I had a trench foot at 100 miles, but I actually fell into this puddle of water in Old River, which was about 40k into the race, and just ignored it. Right, I just carried on going. But because you're climbing all the time and your feet are under like so much stress all the time, it just kind of built up, and it was honestly like walking on razor blades from I'd say from about 120, 130k back was unbearable. So yeah, so got to the 100-mile mark at Lowe's. My crew said you need to sleep. I had like a 10-minute sleep. Pushed on to Hogan's, and at that point, it was honestly like my feet were in a condition where it was just that painful. Every step I was yelping, and I was just in so much agony. And I got into Hogan's, and the medics there looked at my feet, and they were like, "I don't know, really, I don't really know what to do with them." Tried to patch them up. I tried to put new socks on there, new shoes on. And I actually left Hogan's. I left Hogan's to venture, and because I had 40k left, but I had an 11k stretch to go through Old River, and I turned back. Yeah,
So 40 Ks left on the total 230 something K.
yeah, yeah,
Fuck, how did it feel to pull the pin? Because I mean, do you know what, Dave, is it's been hard, man, trying to explain to people how hard this race actually is.
yeah.
And I think that when people see obviously 235 or 235 Ks, is that right? Yeah.
217.
217, right? But
Yeah,
when you say 217, you're like, yeah, like obviously it's still a mammoth of a distance, but people really can't understand how brutal it actually is.
yeah.
Is it how do you explain the difference between like a 200 something K race versus down under? Like how?
Um, Down Under for me, the reason why it's such an amazing race is every year like less than 10% finish, right? And there's a reason behind it. And for this year, it was just so disorientating, the course. So there are markers. There's absolutely markers, and there is probably one of the most well marked courses I've ever raced in the country. The difference is that every time you climb a ridge, which is really steep and often looks unclimbable, they send you back down into a gully, and then the only way out is to go back up again. And then when you get back up, you don't really know if you need to kind of go back down and go back up again or take another path, and it's just super disorientating. So often, as you're going through 2 nights of that section in the cold, it rains this year as well. I found the whole thing just, essentially very disorientating and, you know, just really hard. I mean, the steepness of the Lerderberg in terms of climbing, every climb is super steep. It's not like a gradual steepness that you're climbing. I mean, you're going up. Um, and so that's probably the main difference compared to other races. So yeah, it's just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, because the vert, what's the total vert for the race? They said it was it 17,000? Sorry,
This
7,000?
this total elevation for this race was 15.
15,000. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is just absolutely ridiculous. But the thing about it as well, it's not like 15,000 going up and down little things. Like you're saying, it's 15,000 of straight up, straight down, straight up, straight down.
yeah, and you got, the thing people like, some people don't know about this event and the course itself. There's a section called Old River as an example. It's 11 k's, but it takes 5 hours to complete. It's slow. It's so slow, and there's huge trees. There's huge boulders you got to climb across. I mean, you just can't really maneuver quickly through that sort of shrub. So it's super hard. And there's just little sections like that have their own uniqueness that you've just got to figure out mentally. How do I best approach this?
Fuck. How did you feel? So 100 and what'd you get to? 180, 170?
I think it was like, yeah, I think it was about 180 something Ks. Yeah.
So what was the take me back to the moment that you've done 180 Ks, you've been up for what, 30 something hours at this point?
Yeah,
And then
yeah, I was up for 41 hours I was up at that point. Yeah. Um, so
how
like,
did how did it feel to pull the pin?
yeah, horrible. Absolutely horrible. Like, I was going from Lowe's to Hogan's, and which is a relatively, I say, easy part of the course compared to others. But as I was going, um, my pacer at the time, Joel, he said to me, you've lost all personality. So I had no personality coming through. I was just a shell of a person. Um, and, I wasn't making conversation. He said to me, you need to go and sit down and have a sleep. And this was like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I had a sleep for 5 minutes. It was cold. My body was like kind of going into hypothermia. He woke me up and said, "We need to keep going. Otherwise, I don't know if we're going to get you back." So kept going. And by the time I got there, um, the by the time I got there, I saw a guy called Tim Kay, who an amazing athlete in Australia. Shout out to Tim. He was on a chair and he was just saying my kneecaps had blown out. And I realized then that actually I hadn't done too bad, right, to get to where kind of he got to, given his level of endurance. And it was horrible because when I left, I got maybe like 2 kilometers down. I was about to go into Old River, and I just said to Joel, I can't do this anymore. Um, I cannot, I cannot withstand that pain anymore. And it was like I was at the complete threshold of what I could take.
Do you think that the feet were the main cause? Do you feel like that when you look back on it now? Because I know sometimes when you're in these things, we give a lot of life to these problems, but then in hindsight, sometimes we look back and go, were they as bad? But I mean, I saw the photos And I'm definitely not saying they weren't bad. I'm just curious to know what's your opinion on it now.
They were bad. And sometimes I think to myself, like how much damage is worth really doing to yourself. So I've had terrible Achilles. Like probably like 6 months ago, as part of my DU training, which wasn't advised by anyone, I ended up doing what's called a megasaw, but ended up kind of doing that 3 times, which is a course in the Dandenongs and has like 7,000 or so meters of elevation gain. It's about 80 k's, and I busted my Achilles and my calf doing it. And so like that was kind of the level of pain I experienced there was kind of the level of pain I was experiencing in my feet. And I kind of said to myself, like, I'm going to do some serious damage here if I continue. And I think sometimes you just got to call the pin. You just kind of got to go, is it worth it? And for me, it probably wasn't worth continuing to be out for months.
Do you feel disappointed or proud? Like, what is it, or is it a combination of both?
Um, I feel I feel disappointed, but I also feel really proud of where I got to. Um, in all, like I think sometimes with these big events, you put so much into them that when you don't complete the goal, you come out of it and you go, like last year, I absolutely could have gone further and I pulled the pin too early. Like I recognize that. But this year, I definitely went as far as I could go physically and mentally and emotionally as well. I was pretty emotionally drained from everything, and I just, you know, so I think there's always going to be an opportunity to hopefully do this event again. And if that's the case, I'll be the first to sign up as well. So
Oh, he's back already. He's
yeah, yeah,
back.
yeah, absolutely.
How long before it went, I'll never do this again to I'm willing to go back? Was it a day or?
It was probably a few hours. Like I knew I like that. This one event. I mean, like honestly, it brings together a community of people who just love pushing it. And it's probably the only time that you ever in a year get to meet these guys and get to run with them, right? Properly all together. So um it was, it's a special event. I wish I found out about it earlier. um and if I did, I would have been probably running it for hopefully a few more years in the past. But yeah.
There was 3 or 4 people that finished this year. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. um
Have you had a chance to speak to any of them and hear their opinions of it?
Yeah, so one of the runners, a guy called Pete, he came in fourth place. So it was 4 finishes. So Pete, he actually, it's funny because I was coming into Hogan's and he was on my tail the whole time. And before you kind of get into Hogan's, you have to kind of dive down into a huge gully, and I could see his flashlight and his head torch and stuff coming through, and he ended up catching up with me, and he was moving, but he didn't look like he was enjoying it like anyone out there, but he was at least shuffling, which I wasn't. I was kind of power hiking, and so he came through and he finished. So he pushed on out the aid station, whilst I was getting my feet checked, and pushed on. So and a massive well done to him, because it's just incredible. And then the other person I spoke to was Grant Ward. Grant finished the course last year, I think in something ridiculous like 48 hours. He smashed the course record, and he finished this year. Yeah.
There was a guy I can't remember on the track because we were watching on the tracker. Obviously, we were pretty glued to it, especially after speaking to you before and everything. There was a guy who came out of the gate shirtless. Did you see this guy?
Yeah,
And he went quick. Like I'm talking well ahead.
yeah. You're talking about Bert, Birdie Bert.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Fast.
yeah,
Very, very fast. Like I'm talking I can't remember what he was at, but he was ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Bert. I've touched base with him after the event. Unfortunately, he had some breathing issues, I think. So he actually ended up having to pull out. I can't remember what distance he pulled out, but I got a funny story about Bert. Actually, last year, I was running, obviously sort of running with him. I was at the front of the pack, which wasn't a good idea, but I decided to kind of run with him at the front. And I got to like 45 k's in, maybe 50 k's, and I said to him, "We're going way too fast." I said, "We've got to slow it down." And he was like, "Mate, I'm only going halfway." So he had planned only to go halfway last year. So I basically got caught up in the moment and yeah, burnt out a little bit too quickly. There's a lesson, but there you go.
Was he planning to go halfway this year or was that
No,
or
no,
was
he
he
was going to
no?
go the full way this year. But he like I don't know but really well, but he's an incredible runner and athlete. And he um he seems to be like an all or nothing type guy, so it's like throw your hat in the ring and let's just go for it. So it's sad to see him pull out. I wish he finished.
Well, I mean, like I think everyone it's a bit sad to see everyone pull out. Like to be honest, we were tracking everyone we knew was gone. You
Yeah,
actually you stayed in the fight for a really long time. Like you almost had it really. Like you were so close.
mm,
The thing is and it's hard to articulate this to other people, but 20 Ks is not 20 Ks. Like that's hours and hours and hours still of work.
yeah, yeah. Like you can do. I mean, like I said, like 11K can take you 5 hours, right, to do. And just to be out there for that amount of time in between. There's one section which I can't remember where it is. I think it's between like Amblers and Square, or maybe it's Square Bottle and Lowe's. I can't remember, but there's like a 25K stretch in the race between aid stations, and it's probably one of the longer stretches. But 25K in the Lurdy is like a good training session, just like one big training session for a day. Like I often wouldn't do more than that. And so yeah, it's just a lot, and it can take hours. Like some section, like that section as an example, would have taken us like maybe 8 to 10 hours or something like that in the race. So it's a lot.
It's brutal, man. It's absolutely brutal. I mean, we've been sifting through all of the footage obviously for the doco,
Mm.
and with the amount of times we've had a bit of a laugh, to be honest, just seeing like the one of you trying to put your feet into the bath water and you're basically like yelping when you're putting your feet into the water.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Uh, it felt painful, like really sore. Um, do you know what? Like, it's funny. Like, I did King of the Hill in November, and I had no idea what to expect, right? In terms of like, pain, suffering, how my body would pull up. But my feet pulled up fine, and it was because you're on grass and you're on mud, and it's a bit softer on the body. But you go to here at DU, and it's all like, jagged rocks and just, even the plants, like, don't want humans to be there. I mean, that's the best way. But like, even they're like everything's fawny, and it's just, it's an uncomfortable environment, and I find it quite scary as well at night time to be there on your own, moving. Like if you're not moving with someone, it's not great. So yeah, like I kind of like outside of the legs and sorry, outside of the feet, my whole legs were scratched up. I had kind of cuts all over my body and stuff from these weird sort of plants and stuff that they've got growing there. It yeah, it takes a bit to recover.
Yeah, I bet. How do you think it compares to King of the Hill from like a mental challenge point of view? Because obviously one is a last one standing format every
Mm.
hour, and then one is just out and back. But they're two very, very different races.
They're so different. Like I think so King of the Hill for me, King of the Hill for me is like um the bit that I found really challenging is, you do a loop and then at night time you'd have to have I'd do like a 5 minute nap, and then someone would wake you up, right? And you'd sort of, come up for air and realize you're alive again. And then it was like back in the holding pen. And then it's not like a normal last man standing because you go, oh yeah, I'll just run around six and a bit K. No, this is like, no, you're going back up that hill again. And it's just knowing that climb, you have to do that again straight away from the start line. It's mentally crushing. Um, and like if anyone hasn't done the hill, it's not just a nice little hill that you can just take 1 foot forward and then you find your other set. Like these, like it's like chunky. Like each step is huge and it's rough, and the terrain's fucking tough. Like it's tough. It might just, yeah, you might see it and go, oh, it's on grass, but when you're up close to it, it's a huge bloody hill, and you got to do it. Like you almost got two hills that you got to do. Um, and so yeah, that for me, like in terms of how it compares. DU DU is DU is something where I think it's like, it's actually physically tougher on the body. Like I think it will chew you up and spit you out and you feel it. I also think it's, I guess, mentally on par, I would say, with King of the Hill, depending on how far you're willing to push yourself. Last year, I think I got to, I can't remember, like 170 something or 100, I can't remember, 180. But you ended up doing 14,000 meters of climbing, which is, pretty much on par with DU. So it's different, but I think magical in its own unique way.
Yeah, it is a different format, and I mean we've heard a lot of people say it that they go do like a, let's say, a standard normal 100K race,
Mm.
and then they do King of the Hill and they don't even make it close to 100Ks. And I think, I mean, there's lots of different reasons of why that might happen, but I do think, and I believe that one of the reasons is you've got the question that comes up every hour. And I think that's something you don't have to play out in a normal standardized race.
Mm.
You're normally like, you're not thinking about quitting until times get rough, right? You're not really thinking about quitting, but there is this part of every single hour you have to have these micro decisions. And as you're broken down physically, mentally, repetitively, lap after lap, you have to answer that question every time, and it gets harder to answer those questions, right?
Do you know what threw me on the last? So the reason I quit last time, outside of not being able to keep, you know liquid down and stuff, there was two reasons. Like, so, compared to DU's obviously got its environment and stuff. The flyers don't leave you alone at King of the Hill. So you got to be able to put up with that shit in your face non-stop, and it's really depressing. Like you're going up and these things are just flying and landing on your face, and the sun was like beating down on us, and so that really got mentally into my head. And by the third day I was like, I just don't know if I could take this anymore. So that was one. I'm buying a fly net for the head this year.
Man,
Like,
I put it in the email. I told people, I said, pro tip, get a fly net. And there was only one guy who brought a fly net.
I saw that guy and I was like, what a great idea. I'm using that. But yeah, like, so that's pretty tough. But you're right. It's like, the comfort of knowing that you kind of coming back every loop, and you've got your tent there, and you've got your family there to support you and stuff like that. Um, you know, and they're only within an hour away. Like you're doing a loop, 45 minutes or so on the hour every hour, so it's not too far. Whereas at DU, it's like, I'll see you later, see you later, darling. I'll see you in 10 hours. Like it's a long time again to be away from your crew. So I think that's ultimately also a bit of a difference between the two.
It definitely would have been a good training ground for you though, with coming from King of the Hill back into Down Under. Like did you notice any like I guess mental resilience lift from that?
Yeah, like I just think, I think regardless of what event you're doing, if it's a 50K, if it's a 100K, if it's a 200 miler, you should go do King of the Hill. I'm definitely a fanboy of it. I think it gives you the opportunity to go as far as you actually want to go, and it gives you enough freedom to actually make it within the hour. Like you can make it within the hour as long as you're not walking the entire time, right? I think is this year, you can do it. It's more like how much shit do you want to put up with on every single loop, and how much are you willing to kind of put up with that. I think with ultra running, it's like for me, it's always about like the 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 threshold of what you're willing to endure. Like how much are you actually willing to endure? And for a lot of people, they do a 50K and they might go to King of the Hill and they get like 30K. And to be honest, I'd say that's on par, if not a lot better than just doing a kind of 50K run with like 2000 meters of elevation gain or something. So I'm big on the elevation. I think elevation is the key to, unlock your ability in some of these races. I'm a true believer of that.
Well, I mean, what's the nickname that you've got? The King of the Dandies or something?
I didn't give that. I didn't give myself that name.
What's the origin story of this? Because I actually came across that the first time in the comments section of a King of the Hill post. It blew up in like Vic Ultra Running or something. They're like, the King of the Dandies is out there, and I was like, who's this King of the Dandies guy? Where did that originate from?
Yeah. Look, there's there's so many amazing runners around the Dandies, and I don't put myself into that equation. There are some like incredible runners who live around here, and just the whole community as well. Um, I tend to try and get up every morning at like 5 a.m. Although not the last 3 weeks, but I tend to get up at 5 a.m. and I go and climb a minimum. I try and climb a minimum of like 700-800 meters of vert a day, Monday to Friday, and then I'll try and do a weekend where we'll do something like what's called like a mega saw, which is like all of the biggest climbs in the Dandies. It's a 28K loop and it's about 2,500 meters of climbing. We'll try and pack one of those in, or something equivalent to that. Um, and so yeah, I just got coined this because I love like I love chasing, climbing mountains and climbing like some of the trails and stuff. But I've got a good crew of guys around me who love doing the same, so it makes it easy.
Did you with King of the Hill? Was it what you expected? I mean, I am just curious now, obviously, because we're running it. But was it what you expected? Because I mean, we had a lot of interesting reactions from I guess, the ultra community about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, like what, as in like, did you get unfair stick, or like what was
Oh
the?
no, more so like because it is a different format, right? Like it's a shorter distance with the like coming into it was it harder? Was it easier? Was it what you thought it would be?
It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Like I remember, like, so I was sitting down, I saw it come up on Facebook and I saw King of the Hill, like, and I was like, oh, what's that? And sort of, saw the social media video and I was like, this looks fun. But I forgot about it. And then I had a mate message me and he said, this was the week before. He goes, my mate's dropped out. I think he can transfer you a ticket if you'd be interested to doing it. And it turns out that his mate actually, I think, ended up doing it in the end. So I was that intrigued. I ended up buying a ticket and I jumped in. And I remember turning up at the event and it was like, it was in its infancy. You could tell there was something special that was happening. Like, I think, you know, the ultra running community is a super open community, and I think everyone's just kind of looking to figure out, you know. To be honest, I'm very grateful that you guys even put on an event like this, because it took a lot of time. It took
Yeah,
a lot of effort. I don't think you guys expected to be out there that long, but if you're going to set an event up like that, you're going to expect, like, there's a few crazies out there that will go 4 or 5 days if they.
we know that now, man.
Yeah.
We've made some adjustments for this year, that's for sure. We were definitely not expecting it to go as long as we did. But to be honest, like we come from the background of, I guess, doing hard things and chasing suffering and blah blah blah, ultra endurance. But in terms of ultra race, we're new. We're so new.
Yeah.
And I think that was pretty evident in some of the ways we've done things as well.
Mm.
But yeah, like it is, as I start expanding my areas and looking into ultra racing more and more, I really do see why so many people love it, because it is just such that expression of doing the uncomfortable that you really can't get in a lot of other normal environments and in not like other areas. Because you can go out, yeah, of course you can go out and do something hard, right? Like this, but the accessibility of running and the community behind it is unmatched 100%. Like there is just I haven't seen anything like it ever.
There's no better people on this planet than ultra runners. I truly believe that. Like, and you, like, honestly, because I haven't been doing 100 milers for that long. Like maybe, like, 5 6 years or something like that. And the thing I love about it is you get to meet people and you get to share some stories, and they're often people who are going through or have gone through some hardship. They've gone through some turmoil. You know they're fighting against something. I mean, like, for me personally, um like, I don't wake up every day and love to go out at 5 o'clock in the morning and go climb 800 meters in the cold and the dark and on my own. Like, I genuinely don't like it. But I do it because I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better friend. And I think that's kind of what it's all about. And then when you get the opportunity to run together, you're all kind of sharing that same experience. Like, you're all trying to better yourself, and you're doing it through this thing that you've kind of come across that you love, because it kind of pushes you to be a better person.
Yeah, I think at least I found that you almost put yourself in this bucket of thinking that you're maybe a bit different in these areas, and maybe, but you're not, because there's actually a community out there that do this. There's actually thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. You just, in a normal day-to-day setting at your job or whatever, out of school or uni, like you don't see a lot of those people. But then as you start going into these communities, you realize they're fucking everywhere.
They're everywhere. They are
They're
everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah. And it's awesome. And you're not special, but it's awesome. Like
Yeah.
it is really cool. And I think ultra running is it's awesome that it's taking off and starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Because it really does bring the light to these people that are doing these amazing things. And I've seen people do amazing things non-ultra running related, but I've never seen so many people do so many amazing things
Yeah.
in
And
what I see with ultra running.
yeah, like, it's it's boomed. I think Victoria as well, like, we're really lucky here because we've got, some, like, absolutely amazing people doing amazing shit in this community that doesn't get enough coverage, in my opinion. These are people who, are smashing course records on some of the hardest ultramarathon courses in the world. And it's just not sort of publicized, which it doesn't need to be, in all honesty. But at the same time, like, I think credit where credit's due. There's a lot of people out there that are putting in a lot of time and effort and sacrifice. And I think that's why you have a strong community, because a lot of people don't have that pathway to sponsorship on the big stage and stuff like that. So yeah, we've got a great thriving community here, and I love it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, the Vic ultra running community is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
I see even that Facebook page. I mean, I almost feel like a bit of a phony these days because I'm like I need to go run an ultra or something because I'm sitting here I'm hosting an ultra, I'm putting on a doco for an ultra, and my furthest I've ran is 42 Ks. I need to get to fucking work.
But that's a good, but that's how it starts, right? I mean, it's funny, like, um, everyone's journey into this space is slightly different, and what happens is you end up speaking to people that normalize. They normalize going past 50K or past a
Mm.
marathon, and so you kind of. I remember getting into like I was at my first event was at the Yangs and I was running the 42K there, and I met a guy who was doing the 100 miler. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, there's a 100 mile. Like I was so not even involved in the sport at this time. He goes, yeah, I'm doing 8 loops. How many are you doing? And I'm like, two. I felt embarrassed. I was like, two
Yeah.
loops. Um, and I just couldn't believe that he was willing to like sacrifice, himself over 8 loops. I was like just blown away. But then 2 years later, like I was lining up to do my first 100 miler at the Uis because this guy maybe believed that I could do it. I could be like him.
Yeah, it's the power of environment, man. It is really like that. You see people. I mean, that's what I like about the last one standing formats is that you kind of get lost in what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you've ran 50Ks, and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I was able to do 50Ks. I've just been hanging out with my mates, running around this bloody fucking loop or hill, whatever, and it kind of just forces you to break through that barrier almost accidentally in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
When did this journey start for you? Like when was there a pivotal moment for you where you've just gone, shit, I'm actually all right at this, or did it build up over time? I mean, I'm sure it's a bit of both.
Yeah, like so I've always been involved in sports. Like I used to play, soccer from a young age. Was always like quite athletic, and then like in my 20s, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I enjoyed a party, and I wasn't really into fitness. And what happened is I had my first son, Wilder, and I kind of was I was kind of like not not very healthy. I mean, I was at the time, and this was only like 7 years ago, right? So I was at the time, I was actually smoking, I was drinking, and I wasn't, I was working like a workaholic, and I had nothing outside of that I could really focus on. And we moved to the Dandenongs, and when I moved here, I realized there's only two things you can really do, which is cycle or run. And if you don't like one of those, you can go for long walks, but that's pretty much it. So COVID hit, and like a couple of months, sorry, a year later after my first son was born, and I had my second son, and at that point, like I started doing park run with them both in like in a pram, in a dual pram, and I started sort of running around. Then I realized that actually those pram dads took it pretty seriously at park run. They were going for the finish, and I started like really going for it as well. And I was getting like, I was doing all right. I was getting top 4, top 5, and I was like, actually, I can run. And I quit smoking. I quit drinking, and I was like, I'm gonna, start running. And I ended up signing up for my first event. I think I did like a half marathon, and I was like, kind of enjoy it. I'd got a good time, semi good time. And then yeah, found Trails Plus, ended up doing the 40K, ended up going in to do 100K there, which was a massive learning experience for me. Um, did my first miler at GSER, which is another fantastic event. When I did that, that was brutal. That is as well, another brutal event, 10,000 meters of elevation gain over 100 miles. So did that, and I started to just kind of like build up to it, and then you start kind of like meeting other people around the area on Strava and stuff. You start hooking up with them. Most of the people that I know I've just like messaged them and been like, we should go for a run, and then they become my best mate. And that's how it all started a few years ago. So it's been a journey of like from somewhere that wasn't very positive to somewhere that I feel like now is great. If I find so much balance in doing what I do. So
Man, I love hearing about that. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear that. Like I thought maybe you've just been doing this for a really long time. Like, I mean, 7 years is still, don't get me wrong, still a pretty good nudge, but like, I don't know, you just sometimes you almost pigeonhole people in a way, don't you? Just naturally being like, oh, he's probably been running forever, or,
no,
but what a turnaround.
yeah,
What, sorry.
there you go, you go.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned GSR. What is the hardest challenge you reckon you've done? Would Down Under be the one?
Down Under would be the hardest one I've ever done in that format. But I would say the second hardest one I've ever done was GSCR last year. That was really tough. And I recommend anyone go do that event, try it out. They got a new miler course this year, which I'll be crewing a few of the boys at, but it should be fun.
Yeah, I've been told to do that as the first.
Yeah.
That's what people have said. Hey, do that as your first one. It's a good one. But I'm like, when an ultra runner who can do 200, 300 Ks in a run tells me to go do that's a good race, it kind of terrifies me a little bit, to be honest.
You lock it in, and I'll come pace you.
Ah,
You lock it in, and I'll come pace you. We'll get it
you're all
done.
good. You're all good to pace at like 11 minutes a K, yeah? Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the time we get it done in anyway. Average of 11, 12 minutes a K. Perfect.
Yeah, I think, I mean, like I'm really excited to experience it, because a lot of people like yourself, they'll say like, you just don't realize that once you take away the speed and you stop putting that emphasis on having to do it in 5 minute Ks, as soon as you let go of that, then you start realizing that the distance is more and more capable.
Yeah, you've like, and this comes back to the elevation climbing, because I think people often overlook it. The thing that the thing that kills people in a lot of these big races is the elevation gain. Most people are not used to climbing 10,000 meters. I mean, to climb 10,000 meters of elevation gain in any race is like, I personally think it's amazing. Like, it's remarkable. It's a lot of climbing, and it puts a lot of physical and mental stress on the body. Um, Poles or no poles, like, it just, and some people go into these races without poles, and I have full admiration for them. I personally need poles to kind of get through some of these big climbs, except the King of the Hill, because you ban them unless it's raining. But like, yeah, man, like, I would encourage you to do it, and I would just say, if you're gonna do it, you might want to, go to the hill and do a couple of weeks of going up and down it, because and try new hills and new variations of hills and climbing, because I think, different steepness, different grades, it's really important to start learning how to maneuver up and down them. um that's the trick, I think.
Yeah, well, I'll hold you to the pacing. I'll hold you
Yeah.
to that. I've got one last question for you. So I've tried to make this a tradition moving forward. So what's one challenge you'd love to see someone else do, but you would never do yourself?
One challenge I'd love to see someone do. Okay. Um, I would. Geez, that's a good one. So I'll give you one. So there is a thing that we call megasaur, right? And a lot of the community who may be listening to this podcast will know what megasaur is. I think I spoke about it earlier. 28 Ks, big climbs in the Dandies. And I would love for one of my mates or someone in the community to go do 100 miles of the Megasaur, which will probably take the vert well over 10,000 meters of elevation gain, and it will be rough. I mean, it would be such an amazing accomplishment to do. So put it out there. If anyone's wanting to do it, I would absolutely help crew them or pace them. I probably wouldn't do it myself, if I'm honest. But if they do it, then it's going to make me want to do it. So
Yeah, you'll end up doing it for sure.
yeah,
I can hear it in you. Even as you're saying it, you're doubting it. You're like, yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe this sounds like the next challenge.
Maybe this is the next challenge. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. Well, we might wrap there. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for the chat.
No worries, and thank you for everything. Like, really appreciate all of your help and everything that you've put into it as well. It's been amazing.